Hey there guys, long time no see. As you can tell, the setting is a little bit different today. If you didn't see my announcement on like the little post tab here on my channel, I have moved. I moved from Portugal all the way to Poland and I am now in my new apartment. It's actually been quite a whirlwind this past week, but I'm so happy that I'm already kind of like settled as much as I am at this point in time. I'm starting a new job here in Poland, and so I had to move, right? And I came like 2 weeks in advance to have time to like prep everything, have the apartment ready. I also had some stuff I need to take care of here before I start my job. So yeah, I'm really lucky to have my little apartment. This is what we call the dollhouse, okay, because it's very pink and green, and it's extremely pink, which is not even my favorite color. Like pink is my least favorite color. But I found a little pink apartment. It's very tiny. It's a little studio, but it's perfect for just me. It has a beautiful view out the window as well, and it's been perfect. Honestly, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the location. I'm really happy with the apartment. My landlord is amazing. I've been enjoying my time here in Poland, even though I haven't had the time to actually go sightseeing or anything like that. It's been a whole thing, and I haven't filmed much since leaving Portugal. I was filming a few vlogs. I haven't edited yet, but today I wanted to go over the wrap-up for last month because I haven't had the time to do it yet. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing the October wrap-up of every single book I read in the month of October. If I'm not mistaken, I read 15 books this past month. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at every single book, and let me tell you a little bit about my experience reading them. Okay, I needed to change the locations because the lighting outside is so bad. Like, it was really good just a few minutes ago, but it's getting worse and worse. So we needed to change a little bit, okay? Cool. So let's go over the first book I read in October, and that was Death Shall Bow. It was shite. I hated every second of it. I gave it 2 stars, but just because I got a little bit curious about what happened in the end, and also because the book is very tiny. Okay, it's very small, so I read it in like 3 or 4 hours, something like that, and so it gets a pass for that. But even if I was being honest, and if I wasn't being nice, it would probably be a 1 star. Good, not gonna lie, I just didn't like it. Okay, so in this book we follow this girl, and she is like human. She's left in the human world, but she's technically half demon. She is the daughter of the demon king, so she tries to capture Death, her father, and get him to like basically like give his kingdom to her or like die, something like that, right? And she and her friend try to capture him. Friend gets hurt. She begs Death to save him. Death saves him, but not really. And then she gets stuck in a situation where now she has to be the princess of this kingdom, where she's going to have to marry for convenience. She's going to have to do all these things because of her father. It was just this whole thing. And she's just a dumbass, okay? She's a cocky dumbass because she's very cocky that she's able to do this and that, but then in the end she doesn't do half of the things she's supposed to do. Like, I don't know, she's like, the way it's written, I don't like it at all. I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the characters, I just, the whole thing, I didn't like it. Also, the story didn't make sense. There was a lot of holes in the story. It was just very like, I think as the first draft it was cool, but then you have to like work on it. The spice, initially I was like, okay, this is not bad, and then it was just meh. I couldn't care less about the spice in this book. Like, I just got really curious to know what the twist was going to be, and it was a bit of a twist, I will say, but like at the same time I didn't enjoy the book enough to care. At the same, like, you know what, it just, I don't know, it was so small and it was just going by so fast. I was like, okay, I'll just finish it. But when I tell you I wanted to DNF it from the first chapter, I wanted to. I just ended up giving it a chance, even though yeah, it didn't add much to my life. So it's a 2 star. I didn't love it. To compensate for that, I read Immortal Dark. And when I tell you Immortal Dark was exactly what I wanted, so good. So good. I gave it 4.5 stars. The half is just because there was this one part in the story where they go back and forth, back and forth. I hate when that happens. I still really, really enjoyed this book, and the next one is coming this month. I don't know if it's already out or not, but like, it's coming this month, and I'm excited to read it. So in this story, we have 2 twin sisters. One goes missing, the other goes crazy trying to find her and ends up murdering someone. And she knows that her sister's disappearance is connected to this one school that's connected to their family. Now, this school is a place where humans and vampires can coexist, where there's human houses, like very like important human houses, and then there's vampires that are sired to these houses. These vampires can move around, but like they're basically sired to the houses. And her house has 1 vampire and 1 vampire only. Most houses have like 160, worst case scenario 20, like they have 1. Okay, and she knows that this one vampire and this school are connected to her sister's disappearance. So she needs to get to the school. Only she's been kept protected from the school all her entire life, her and her sister, because vampires are bad, vampires are evil, and their family tried to protect them, all of that shenanigan, right? So fast forward, she gets an invitation to the school. Finally, after God knows how long, she's trying to get an invitation to the school. And she goes and has to interact with this guy, has to live with this vampire that hates her. She hates him. And they're constantly fighting. There's constant issues, like so much, right? But then there's also like what's going on in the school. We also see that. And there's also murder mystery, like someone dies and they're like, what the hell just happened? Why did this person die? There's so much going on in the politics of this world, and at the same time she needs to figure out what is going on with her sister and has to like crack the code of their house and the vampire and all of that, right? It's so good, it's so well done. The characters are dark and like interesting and complex. The friends, the school, like all of it just pulled me in so bad. It was exactly what I needed out of a vampire book, and it's slow burn. It's so good, and I cannot wait for the next one. I will say the ending, I wanted to murder someone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew I figured out what was going to happen when I tell you I wanted to strangle the bitch. I wanted to strangle her. I did, and that is how you know I love the book. Okay, that is how you know. Next up, I read the Beautiful series. This is the type of series that I was so hyped up about because it has New Orleans, vampires, and fae, magic, darkness, secrets. Just New Orleans and vampires makes you think originals, right? Who doesn't want a Klaus Michelson in their life? Or just any Michelson at this point, but like Klaus, come on. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be great because this is gonna be everything I like. So excited. So first book, 4.5 stars. Loved it. Ate it up. So good. So good. The main character is the strong, fierce woman that arrives in New Orleans, escaping from France because she murdered someone that tried to rape her. Yeah. And she meets this mysterious guy at night, and she's just, fiery to him. And this mysterious guy is actually human, but his family is all vampires, and he's surrounded by vampires, and he's one of the enforcers of that vampire family. And this whole thing starts with them, but then obviously it's forbidden because no one wants it to happen, and it's kind of forbidden. But there's so much more that happens, right? So it's so interesting, it's so cool. I liked it so much. I like the characters a lot. I really connected with the characters. I like the setting so much. It was just everything. It had everything to be perfect. And then the rest of the series happened. Okay, and I hated it so much. I don't think you understand. I wanted to DNF it so bad for so long. Mind you, it is YA, so if you're expecting something super like spicier, it's not that, but it's still very good first book. And then the second book goes down to 3.5 stars. The third book goes down to 3 stars, and the fourth book I gave it 3.5. But I hated the ending. When I tell you I hated the ending did not need to be a happy ending, but the ending that we did have was ridiculous. It made no sense. Just didn't make sense according to the characters, according to their personalities, didn't make sense. And then one of the books is just focusing on side characters. Like, I don't care about them. I want our main characters. You then start to care a little bit about them, but you don't really, And then there's this idiotic, stupid ass boy. There's lies. There's tropes I absolutely hate, which is miscommunication and memory loss. Okay. I hate these tropes with all my heart, and YA is riddled with them, which is also why I haven't been reading a lot of YA recently, or I haven't been liking what I read from YA recently, because it's just riddled with miscommunication that drives me absolutely up the walls. I don't think you understand. I hate it so bad. So, yeah. I love the first book, and I would advise you to read the first book. The rest, just pretend they don't exist. Yeah, just pretend that the rest of the series doesn't exist, and you'll be good. You'll be fine. Everything will be perfect, okay? Just pretend it doesn't exist. Next up, I read Boys with Sharp Teeth. Now, I thought this was a vampire book because literally on Goodreads you have vampire on the tags, but it's not a vampire book. It's technically like a murder mystery, paranormal-ish. Yeah, I think you'd classify it as paranormal-ish, where you have this girl and her best friend dies, and her best friend works in the school with these preppy-ass, snobby-ass, bratty-ass bitches, right? And she has to infiltrate the school, so she forges her documents, forges everything to be in the school, so she can figure out what happened to her friend, like why did he die, because she doesn't believe he died the way he did. And so yeah, basically that's what happens. She kind of starts interacting with these two boys and this one girl, and they're very weird. It's very paranormal-esque. It's very kind of like they're hiding a big ass secret. It's very, and you get sucked into it because you want to know what the fuck is going on, because it's almost as if you're more curious about what is going on than the actual main character, because it just sucks you in, and next thing you know, you're finishing the book. It's just, I can tell you that I sat down for it. I was like, I don't know, this doesn't have vampires. I kept expecting the vampires to show up, but it doesn't have vampires. I checked, doesn't have vampires. Well, I guess I'll just read it. Next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. and I finished the book. That's how sucked in I was into this book, okay? So I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it more because, like, I didn't like the ending, first of all. And because, again, I was sold on to the wrong idea. I think also this one thing that peeved me a little bit, which was there was this whole massive, whoa, this secret. And then the secret wasn't that big of a deal. It was important for the story and relevant, but like, and then the ending ruined it for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a solid 4.5 up until the ending. And then the ending was just terrible. Terrible. Yeah, that's why it was 4 stars. But I will always advise you to read it because it's really good. I just didn't like the ending. Because it was just like, for what? Well, for what? What was the reason? What was the reason? What was the point of this whole thing? Like, so after this, I went and dived into Alchemize because I actually received the book through Fairy Loot, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read this. I've been hearing so many people rave about this. I'm gonna read it. I give it 4 stars. Okay, let me explain, because I know that a lot of people are either like hating on it or loving it, and like not a lot of people stand in the middle. I really liked the first part. First part, I was hooked. I was liking it so much, so curious about what was going on between the characters, so curious about the sayings, and I saw a lot of the phrases online too, so I was like, okay, this is relevant. And I will tell you right off the bat, this book is the one book that I've annotated the most in my entire life. I'm not an annotator. I do occasionally take a note or two, but like most of the times they're not even that relevant. And this book, I annotated the shit out of it. When I tell you I have so much annotated in this book, so much. Thing is, first part, fucking great, amazing. We go into the second part, and the parallels between the first and the second are wild, and they're juicy. They're so good. And then you get a third of the way through the second part, and you're like, okay, the story ends up being very, very, very slow, and not in the slow burny way. That is interesting, yes, but it becomes really, really slow. And then the last part, I kind of expected this big bad final boss battle, doesn't show up. And the ending was very like, I kind of resonated with the main character in this, where she didn't feel like it was safe enough to trust that this was the true ending. Like, how can this really be the ending? How can this be our happily ever after? Like, they'll just show up and blast us any minute now. And that's how I felt. I felt like the shoe was about to drop at every point, and no shoes dropped ever. Fairly happy ending. Like, it's a fairy tale ending, truly. But maybe not fairy tale. It's more realistic, but it's still a happy ending, which a lot of people are like, it's not a happy ending. And it's not a fair ending in some aspects, but it's not a bad ending. That being said, I do think the book talks about really, really important topics, which I do go more in depth in the actual vlog for this when I read this book, but I feel like it really went in depth into a lot of topics in terms of like the way people treat immigrants, or the way people treat in society treat women, and the way how humans are like discarded and just used, and they're not actually seen as human beings, and also like how religion can become a cult so easily, and how like brainwashed people can get. Like, there's so many nuances, there's so many things that are important to talk about this book, and it's so deep. I will also say, like, I connected a lot with the characters. I loved them so deeply. Even though the book for me was a 4-star, I still connected a lot with the characters. So next up, I read Among the Burning Flowers. It's just a little short story in between the prequel for The Priory of the Orange Tree and The Priory. I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It was cool. It was nice. It gave me a little bit more perspective, a little bit more insight. It's cute. That's it. Like, saw a lot of people saying, oh, it's 5 stars, amazing. And mind you, I love Samantha. I love her books. I don't know, Samantha. Can you tell I did not take my ADHD meds today? Can you tell? Because I can tell. This was just a short story, and that's what it's meant to be, right? If you take it at that, maybe you could rate it more. But to me, I kind of expected a little bit more, like little, sprinkles on top of the donut that don't add anything to the flavor of the donut, but it's always nice to see those sprinkles and to know that those sprinkles are there. It was kind of like that. And so I gave it 3 stars because it was good, but it wasn't whoa. Next, I read Never Ever After, and this is definitely a YA book, but I really, really liked it. And I'm not surprised I liked it because it's Lin Tan, okay? And usually with Sue, her books are small and they're relatively fast paced, but they're so well done and so well written. I really like her writing style. I really like the way she tells her stories. She gives you a lot of details, but also doesn't prolong herself in things that don't matter too much. And it's kind of Cinderella inspired, and you can definitely see the inspiration in the Cinderella story. Basically, like, this girl is very poor. She lives with her evil stepmother aunt, technically, I think. And they steal, and they cheat people out of their money, and they steal and whatever to survive, and her stepmother takes all the money from her until there's this ball, because the prince is throwing a ball, and she decides to go to this ball because the stepmother has a ring of hers that is very important and magical, and she needs it. Okay, so she goes and tries to retrieve this ring, gets in a scuffle at the palace, and the prince basically takes her in and it's like, okay, like, I'll keep your ring safe for you, but we need to check if the story that you're telling is true or not, so you're staying here, but as a guest. And so the prince starts to court her, basically wants to marry her, and she's like, yeah, I don't want that technically, okay. And so she tries to get away with it. There's politics in the middle. There's another character also involved that we also like him a lot, okay. And it's a really cool YA story of like a slight triangle, but not true triangle story, but it's very interesting, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it a lot. I'm really interested in seeing where the story goes from here, and I really like the Cinderella vibes. I gave this book 4 stars because it was nice. Next up, I went into my most anticipated read, or like not my most, but like one of my most anticipated reads, okay, of this year, which is The Primal of Blood and Bone. And I hated it. When I tell you, I struggled so bad with this book and I was so disappointed. I cannot even begin to explain how disappointed I was. Okay. I hated it so bad. It's insane. But like, here's the thing. I love Poppy and Castile. I love Kieran. I love the story. I love everything about this. I was so engrossed in this world. And there was things I really wanted to see in this book. I just didn't get to see it. It was a lot of machismo. It was a lot of men trying to control Poppy. It was a lot of like overbearingness. It was a lot of like sex too. Like, it got to a point where I was just sick and tired of the smell. Like, please stop having sex. Please. I beg of you, stop. I don't care. I started reading the book, but I couldn't. So I started listening to the book instead, so I could keep busy because I wasn't connecting to the story. And when I tell you, we spent like what was it, like 2 hours in one room, and I was listening to the audiobook in 2 times speed. Such a big chunk of the book in just this one room, talking. If I'm not mistaken, it was like sex, then Castile, then sex, then Kieran. It's like, God, and no, Kieran was not involved in it. Okay, there was this one scene where I was like, no expectations. Fuck you, Kieran. I want the expectations. I want there to be expectations. Please give her expectations. Like, fucking hell. I like Kieran so much. And I'm not one to love thruples, but like, in this case, please pick both at the same goddamn time. Again, please, because let's be honest. You love Kieran. We all know this. We know this. So why? I was so frustrated with it, with the way the story went, with how the book ended. It didn't make any sense. The characters were all over the place. Like, did you forget who your characters are? Like, it makes no logical fucking sense. And like, the way they were so overbearing and smothering her, and it was just a dick swinging time the entire book. It was just there, like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. There was a lot of dicking around. There was a lot. And I can't with all the testosterone. I can't. And I was so frustrated, so angry. Like, I don't think you understand how angry I was this entire book. And I gave 3.5 stars to this one. And the half is because I love the characters. Okay? Yeah. That is it. That is the only reason. Because it was so bad. Anywho, talking of disappointment, then after this book is when I decided to challenge myself to read my entire physical TBR. I ended up reading 4 books during this challenge. The first one was The Crime in the Christmas Express. Loosely translated the title here, okay? But basically this is a murder mystery inspired by The Crime in the Orient Express, only it was basically the same bullshit. And it was like from Shein. It wasn't good quality. It wasn't bad. You can still use it. You can still read it, but it wasn't good, the best quality. And the original is definitely better. Yeah. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. I didn't like the writing. I felt like it was a very tell not show, and I didn't like that at all. I survived it. That's what I did. I survived it. And if I did not have the physical book with me, I wouldn't have finished it. I would have DNF'd it. For sure. without a shadow of doubt. Next up, I read 3 Witcher books, and those were the last books I read this month, and it took me a week to finish these 3. And it was because I was busy. I was a lot busier than I thought I was going to be. I have been reading the Witcher series for a really long time, and I read it mainly in Portuguese because that's how I started the series, right? It's the same with Game of Thrones. If I'm going to continue it, it's going to be in Portuguese because I've read it in Portuguese. That's how it makes sense in my brain. It's like watching anime. If you've watched that particular anime dubbed, you have to continue watching it dubbed. But if you watch another anime subbed, you have to continue watching it subbed. You cannot change midway because it's not the same. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense with anime, but I don't know if it makes sense with books, okay? The first book I read was Lady of the Lake Part 2 in Portuguese. They divided the book into 2 parts. In this book, I have a little bit of conflicting feelings because it was told in a very particular way, which I do not dislike, but it started off with parts of the story that were boring and I was not interested in. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like they continued the story in a part that was too boring to like make me that invested again. Maybe if I had read the part 1 and part 2 like in a row and just as if it was a singular book, maybe it wouldn't have been such of an impact, but it's been years since I read part 1. Yeah, and then I reached the end and it's the last book. Like, the story ends and I hate the ending. I absolutely detest the ending. So I give it 3 stars. Then I went to The Crossroads of Ravens. And that one I gave 3.5 stars. And this is basically when we go back in time. It's like a prequel to the story, and we see Geralt in his like first few years of being a witcher out in the wild. And he is this gullible idiot at first, and then, you know, you see him become a bit more of who he is and how he learned to be who he is, what experiences he went through, some crazy stupid adventures. And it's all a bit like disconnected, but it's still interesting because it's still The Witcher. So I gave it 3.5 stars. The ratings in these books are a bit slow because I noticed that these books were translated from English. So the author is Polish, and then the books get translated to English. And then I think the Portuguese books, instead of being translated from the Polish book, they're translated from the English book. So you can tell that some phrases and some ways that like the characters express themselves sound so much better in English. So I would read a phrase and I was like, automatically translated to English, and like, this would sound so much better. It would sound so badass, so cool in English, but in Portuguese it's like, ugh, gives you the ick. I feel like maybe if it was translated directly from Polish, there wouldn't be a lot of like loss in translation. I don't know why they didn't do that. Now, the third one was Season of Storms, and this one you can technically read right after The Crossroads of Ravens because this is also a prequel. So it technically would be Crossroads and then this one. Or you can read it at the end. I really liked this book, but I still gave it 3 stars because it still wasn't, I don't know. I thought in this book we would get to know how Geralt and Jaskier met, or how Geralt and Yennefer met, but we don't. They're just friends, and now Yennefer and him are exes, and that's where it goes. I wanted to see how they meet for the first time. I wanted to, get to know that story, and we didn't get that. And I feel like it jumped a really important part. It would have been so much better if that was what this book was about, but instead it's like after the breakup and Geralt loses his swords and this whole becomes a whole thing, and he gets mixed up with the people at the witch towers and the wizards and the mages and whatever, and it's just okay, but why do I care about this one story in particular in the long run? Yeah, I was a bit discombobulated, so I didn't really like the way that ended up turning about, But yeah, that's all the books I read this past month. It was crazy. It felt like a really long month. Like I said earlier, it felt like I was reading for such a long time. Anywho, I will see you guys next week. Have fun, have a fun weekend, enjoy yourselves, and happy reading.